Stop asking what you should do. You already know. You knew before you opened this video. The plan has been sitting fully formed in your mind for weeks, maybe years. The conversation you need to have, the habit you need to break, the door you need to walk through. You do not have a clarity problem. You have a courage problem. And courage problems do not get solved by more information. They get solved by removing the thing that has been quietly negotiating you out of action every single day. You already know you need to end the relationship that stopped adding anything to your life 2 years ago. You already know which habit is quietly costing you your mornings. You already know the business idea you keep researching instead of starting. None of these require another article, another framework, another course. You have run the research. The verdict came back a long time ago. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself, in private, that he did not have the luxury of asking whether he was capable, only whether he was willing. The Emperor of Rome did not struggle with knowing what needed to be done. He struggled, like you, with the gap between knowledge and execution. That gap has a name, and tonight, you are going to look directly at it. Phase 1. The gap is not laziness. It is a cost-benefit calculation you're losing. Somewhere beneath conscious thought, you have run the numbers on the action you keep avoiding, and your nervous system has quietly concluded that the immediate discomfort of doing it outweighs the long-term cost of not doing it. This calculation feels irrational from the outside. Of course the confrontation is worth having. Of course the habit is worth breaking. But your primitive wiring does not evaluate long-term outcomes well. It evaluates the next 5 minutes. And in the next 5 minutes, staying still always looks safer than moving. This is why willpower alone fails you. You are trying to out-argue a calculation that was never conducted in language. You cannot debate a feeling out of existence. You have to change what the feeling is measuring. Consider how this plays out. You sit down to send the email that ends the underperforming contract. Sending it costs an uncomfortable 90 seconds right now. Not sending it costs nothing measurable in this exact instant. The math, run only against the next 5 minutes, always favors inaction, even when the 5-year math is catastrophically lopsided in the other direction. Phase 2. Comfort is not the reward you think it is. Every time you choose the comfortable inaction over the difficult right action, you are not actually resting. You are paying interest on a debt that compounds. The conversation you avoid gets harder to have next week, not easier. The habit you don't break today digs its groove one layer deeper. Comfort, in this context, is not relief. It is a loan against your future self, taken out by the version of you that will not be the one paying it back. You must reframe the calculation deliberately. Inaction is not the safe option. It is simply the option whose cost is deferred and hidden, and deferred costs always arrive larger than they would have been paid immediately. Picture the conversation you're avoiding, 6 months from now, after 6 more months of accumulated resentment. It will not be easier. It will require unpacking 6 extra months of context nobody asked to have. Phase 3. Kill the rehearsal. The mind loves to mistake preparation for progress. You have likely rehearsed the difficult conversation in the shower a dozen times, refined the perfect wording, imagined every possible response. This feels like productive work. It is not. It is a simulation designed to give your nervous system the emotional experience of having already faced the risk, without any of the actual exposure. The relief you feel after rehearsing is real, and it is precisely what removes the pressure that would have otherwise pushed you to actually act. The moment you notice yourself rehearsing instead of doing, treat it as a warning signal, not a sign of diligence. Redirect that same energy into the smallest possible real action. The first sentence typed, the first number dialed, before the rehearsal has a chance to substitute for it again. Phase 4. The 3-second rule is not a gimmick. It is a bypass. Between the decision and the doubt, there is a narrow window, roughly the length of a few heartbeats, where the analytical brain has not yet caught up to override the impulse. Count backward from 3 and move on 1. Do not think about it during the count. Thinking is precisely how the doubt reclaims the window. The body must act before the mind is given the chance to negotiate a delay. This is not about eliminating fear. Fear will still be present. The rule simply refuses to give fear a seat at the table before the action is already underway. Once the action has started, fear becomes irrelevant because the outcome is already in motion. Phase 5. Make retreat more expensive than advance. If backing out remains easy, you will eventually back out, no matter how many times you've successfully moved forward before. Discipline is not a permanent state. It is a resource that depletes under repeated strain. The solution is not to rely endlessly on willpower. The solution is to engineer your environment so that stopping costs more than continuing. Tell someone the deadline publicly. Spend money on the class before you feel ready to attend it. Schedule the meeting before you've built the perfect argument for it. Every one of these moves removes a soft exit, and a mind without a soft exit finds a way to move forward far more often than a mind that always has one available. What happens once the gap closes? The strange thing about finally acting on what you already knew is that it rarely feels like the triumphant moment you imagined during all those months of rehearsal. It feels almost anticlimactic, quiet, plain, over quickly. That is the tell that you were ready long before you allowed yourself to move. The fear was never proportional to the actual difficulty of the task. It was proportional to how long you would let the task sit unfinished in your mind, accumulating imagined weight it never actually possessed. If you are done rehearsing something you have known for months you need to do, comment, "I moved on 3." Let that be the record of the exact moment the gap closed. Subscribe if you are finished waiting for a feeling of readiness that was never going to arrive on its own. Readiness is not a prerequisite for action. It is a byproduct of having already started.